I was making lots of decisions that were hurting me, and it didn't have a thing to do with the economy. It had nothing to do with what the interest rates on housing and apartment rents were. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the decisions that I was making under my household. Good evening, everyone. All right, we're going to take a look at a PBS News documentary called One New York City's Family Struggle to Survive on a Fast Food Salary. And of course, you can find the original video uninterrupted in the description box down below. Thanks so much for joining me. Let's do it.
25-year-old Shanita Simon has worked at a Kentucky Fried Chicken in Brooklyn, New York for 2 years. She's a full-time shift supervisor, helping manage other workers and filling in wherever she's needed, from being a cashier to running the fryer.
You get benefits?
No. No vacation, no benefits, no sick days, no personal days. That's luxury. That's unheard of. No.
And all this for how much an hour?
I currently get paid $8 an hour.
Now, if you notice the background here, I'm just going to back it up here just a quick second. If you notice the background, you can tell this is very humble beginnings. Now, it's important that we don't look at this from a political standpoint, but instead we're just going to really try to look at it from the facts. Okay, so the facts are, you can tell they're definitely low income. The facts are that she is making, I think they said, around $15 an hour, which is still better, I believe, than the federal minimum wage, which is around $7.50.
$8 an hour.
Is 4 bigger than 4?
After taxes, that wage translates into about $270 a week in take-home pay.
Now I want you to think of this. $270 a week take home. So let's just be real nice and let's just round it off on a good month. Maybe it's $300. Probably should take it closer to $250, but I'm bad at math. So let's say $1,200 a month. Now I want you to stop and just absorb that for a minute. $1,200 a month for working full-time on your feet in a fast food job. Now, I'm not here to yay or nay, the $15 an hour minimum wage thing. All right. I have my opinions about it. Sometimes I think it's like taking one step forward and 2 steps back. Okay, you give a pay raise, but then everything else goes up in response. So I'm not here to discuss that, but I want you to look at the facts of it and think about how much you make. Okay. And I notice also that she's holding 3 children, and it looks like one is a newborn. So we are obviously talking poverty here. But I think to myself, as I go to the grocery store and I buy food, sometimes I look at my basket and I think, my gosh, I've just spent, let's say $80 and I barely have anything, and that's just for me. So I have to be honest. I can't imagine, she's holding 3 kids, and I think this guy's her husband, okay? I can't imagine someone taking one of my checks, one of my teacher checks completely away, and I'm in my 19th year of teaching, and then the one check I have left, they take that and cut it even more, and then tell me, go figure out a living. I can't even imagine it.
And with that, she's supporting a household of 7.
7 people in your house.
7 people in my household. My mom, my brother, my husband, and my 3 kids.
Wow. Oh, okay. All right. I haven't seen this documentary in a while. Sometimes these things come across my feed. I've seen them years ago, and I go, hey, you know what? I think it'd be good for this channel. I forgot about that part. 7 kids. Now, I guess one of the questions I have is, why is this all on her back? Why is she doing all of this? She says she has a brother. I'm going to assume that if she's old enough to have kids, I'm just going to assume that her brother might be older also. I don't know. He might still be a teen, okay, because she's not very old herself. I think they said she's 26, right around there. And then her mother. So why is her mother not working? In other words, why is this young lady being shouldered with all the responsibility? Now try to figure out how you're going to support 7 people on $1,200. And people go, well, they can get food stamps, maybe some WIC or something like that. That is pennies on the dollar for what you actually need, in my opinion, to raise a family.
I'm the breadwinner currently in my home. My husband recently got laid off. So, we have to foot the bill, and I have to hold my head up high and move on.
Over the past several months, activists and some fast food workers, including Shanita, have been organizing for higher wages. They point out that, like Shanita, almost 40% of all fast food workers are 25 or older, and more than 25% are raising children.
Now, I'm a child of the 80s, okay, because I'm 57. I can honestly tell you when I was growing up, you didn't see older people, working fast food. Not even as a side gig, as we might call it today. Not even as a side gig. I just didn't see older people working fast food. It was all of us young pups, before the arthritis and the back injuries and the elbow shoulder problems all came along. I didn't see it. And in the rare cases where there might be a fast food worker with kids, I just, usually they were managerial, they were management and stuff, but I don't know. They were like store managers, but the grunt workers, I did not see older people working alongside me at Wendy's and McDonald's during my 20s. And yet, if I compare that with what I see today, it's like, I think one of the problems is that too many people are using fast food and treating it like it's a career. In other words, there's a lot of that expectation that because I've done this fast food job for a really long time, I should be paid a whole lot more. But the problem is, okay, I'm trying not to make this political, okay, because it's not politics I'm talking about, so let's put that aside, okay? I'm just giving you my thoughts on this. The problem is fast food was never designed, in my opinion, on how I was raised. It was never designed to be I guess what they call a living wage. It was never designed to be that. It was designed to be the first step that you had into the workforce, to learn how to wear a uniform, take orders from a boss, clock in and out on time to work, to do the job, maybe make your nickel pay raise after you've met your 90-day probation. It was never designed, fast food, it wasn't designed to stabilize and support a family. This is how I was raised. Now, of course, other people have different experiences, and I respect that. But I just wasn't raised with the idea that, okay, Carrie, go ahead, have 3 kids. Forget the mother and the brother that live with her. Let's just put that aside. Go ahead, have 3 kids, a husband, on a fast food wage. And if the ends don't meet, then it's the fault of the employer for not paying you enough. Again, we're talking fast food. We're not talking professional careers or even professional trades. Okay, remember, when I think of careers, I'm not thinking of just things like people who go to college. Okay, trades, careers. We're talking fast food, the basics of working. I was just never raised that it was designed for that. So I think what happens is people who perhaps were raised differently, they do their fast food job and then they go, well, I don't understand how come it's not supporting baby 1, baby 2, baby 3, myself, my spouse. Now, she did say her husband was laid off, but I'm assuming he's going to go back to work real soon.
It's not just teenagers flipping burgers part-time, but the industry argues that only 5% of restaurant workers actually earn minimum wage, $7.25 in most states. In New York and around the country, there have been day-long strikes to push for a $15 an hour wage for fast food workers.
Now, I'm going to surprise you on something, folks. This was 10 years ago. Has anything changed today? This documentary was 10 years ago. And what are we seeing today?
If you recognize that the fastest growing industries in this city are fast food workers, fast food restaurants, and it's a race to the bottom, make some noise!
I've always thought you can make all the noise you want, okay? But, and this is tough love, okay? I like to speak what I see as my truth, okay? Even if you disagree, that's cool. Feel free to put it in the comments. I'm fine with that. Just keep it friendly. Here is the thing. You can make all the noise you want about the pay of what is considered a entry-level job. But in the end, it's going to be up to you to pull yourself out of it. People can sit there and yes, the economy sucks, the economy's bad. Whether it's 10 years, ago from this video, and I hope these people are in a better place today, but statistically they are not. Statistically. Whether it's happening 10 years ago, whether it's happening today. I genuinely believe that to some extent, the economy, as we like to say it, isn't really responsible for your success or failure in your personal household. I believe the stronger responsibility lies with you, the controller of the household, to make the decisions that is going to positively impact your family. And that can be a household of one, such as myself, or a household of many. We oftentimes think that going out and, we blame the economy and say, well, see, interest rates are bad on mortgages. What is it? The global economy is doing horrible. So therefore, that is to blame as to why I can't stop my shopping. That is to blame as to why I can't family plan appropriately. That is to blame as to why I bought too much car, too much house. I can't kick my, bad cigarette, gambling habits, whatever. To a certain extent, the economy is to blame. A little bit maybe on the interest rate you're going to have to pay on your house. Yeah, that's kind of sucky. But in the end, when it comes right down to it, I genuinely believe that we as individuals have more power to control our economic status than any economy, any political party in office could ever have. And the reason I have come to believe this is the fact that my biggest financial growth, my getting out of debt, getting into the 800 credit score, finally, sweet Jesus, being able to shift my life around, it did not come when the economy was good. It actually came when it was going south. It was tanking. It was tanking when COVID hit. It was tanking when houses were starting to increase in interest rates. There are people like me who are living proof that it's not so much what's going on outside your family that matters. That's going on outside the household that matters. It's more about what's going on in your own home, under your own roof. To heck with everything else. I don't want to sound insensitive, but if we allow things like, we're going to go stand on the street corner, we're going to bang drums and all that, and bring it to attention. Okay, I can understand. Okay, we can do that. We can bring it to attention that minimum wage sucks. $15 an hour is not enough. I got it. I appreciate that. I'm a teacher. Sometimes teachers have to go on strike, picket, whatever. I get it. Okay? But we can't allow that to be our resting space. We cannot say, yep, this is where I lay my head down, is whether or not I'm going to be out banging pots and pans on streets telling everybody how bad the economy is. Instead, I'm going to look underneath my own roof. I'm going to look underneath, what am I doing? What did I just buy today that I didn't need? What am I spending money on that I could cut back on? Because you must take back that power. Because if you don't take back that power, I guarantee it to you, the economy is going to run you. Because you will have given yourself up to it. Instead, I want you to look at your own budget. I want you to look at what you are doing. I guarantee you that I'm certainly not the only one. There are lots of us that during the last, let's just say 7-8 years that have been kind of sucky, okay, since COVID hit especially. There are many of us that actually thrived, but that thriving came because we planned in advance. We were already on the path to savings. We had already converted ourselves to we want to be debt free. We want to live beneath our means. We don't want to compete with the Joneses lifestyle. We were already on that track. So when things went south, we were already prepared. I think it's just my observation that oftentimes Well, I appreciate and understand the picketing and the protest that, we need $15 or more. I get it. But if I were to go into those households and really fine tune, I mean, we're talking, with a magnifying glass, and we were to look at how the family ran their budget, the decisions that the family has made, both before, during, and after the so-called economic crisis, would we find holes? And in this case, we have a young lady, believe again, she's 26 years old. She's got 3 kids. Forget that her husband is unemployed. Yes, that's unfortunate, but that's not actually the overriding factor of why she's in the situation she's in. There were other decisions dealing with family planning, perhaps lack of education. And again, not all education has to be through college. It can be a trade. So let's make sure that when I say the word education, I'm not talking about getting yourself into $75,000 of student loan debt.
On her near minimum wage salary, Shanita is one of more than 10 million Americans working and living below the poverty line, which is around $35,000 a year for a family of 7. To better understand how people like her get by, we asked Shanita to track her expenses over the course of a week to get a sense of what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck on a fast food wage.
I don't.
Shanita gets paid on Mondays, and after depositing...
Oh, hold on. I don't actually consider this getting by. I call it barely surviving. To me, this is not getting by. It's barely surviving.
Her check, $269.88 this week, she immediately takes out $100 to pay back money she owes from the week before. She's then off to the grocery store. Food takes up the biggest chunk of her budget. On this trip, she spent $53.57.
I can spend $53 just buying yogurt and lettuce. Just buying yogurt, lettuce, basic, almost snacky stuff before, maybe a pound of ground beef or something like that, But $53, I couldn't even imagine trying to feed a family of 7 on this.
So that's for dinner, mac and cheese and chicken.
In addition to 5...
Okay, now look at the products. You could also tell that looking at the grocery store, it's a low-income grocery store. Lots of bars on the doors. The grocery store looks a little bit dilapidated, okay? Looking at the food products, okay? There's a big... what is it? When I was younger, I used to think, like, we can tell her husband clearly has a weight issue, okay? I used to think that if you lived in poverty and you were overweight like he is, and I understand some of you are thinking that's probably an understatement, but we're trying to look at this from the educational sense, not the attacking sense, okay? So clearly her husband has a weight problem. I used to think that people who were heavily overweight, I used to think it's because they ate all the time. And I'm like, how can they possibly be starving? All their money must be going to food. Well, look what we're looking at. We're looking at white bread, the worst for you, but I do eat it because I like it. Okay, but we're looking at white bread, but really low quality. We're looking at low quality maca noodles. This is all starch, all processed. There's no fresh yogurt. Like, this evening I'm gonna make me some fresh berries, some yogurt. Okay, I like to put Greek yogurt in my smoothies and stuff. Throw it around with a few ice cubes. This is what they eat. This is what causes a lot of the obesity problem, and a lot of the obesity problem can be misinterpreted as, oh, they eat all the time, because that's what I used to think. I mean, this is garbage food. Okay, and yeah, I eat white bread, but I eat like your Pepperidge Farm, higher quality ingredient. I know it's still white bread, but still, okay. This is the food that you would find at the dollar store, Dollar Tree or something like that.
Boxes of macaroni and cheese, Shanita buys 3 bags of 99-cent per pound chicken that she cleans, skins, and cooks for her family.
Why is she doing all this when she got a mama apparently living there, unless her mother has some disability that keeps her from being able to work? I don't recall them ever addressing her mother, but why is this woman doing all of it?
Each bag runs about $5.
My daughter milk, $6.
It's one of the most expensive items on her receipt, lactose-free milk, a necessity for her 5-year-old daughter, Kyra, who's allergic to milk, nuts, wheat, and egg.
104 is larger than 014.
Both Kyra...
Now look at the age of these kids. They all don't look like they're more than just a few. The two oldest definitely aren't more than just a couple years apart from each other. Now keep in mind this was 10 years ago. But if statistics, okay, this is the sad part, okay, and we don't know what the update is. Clearly, the mother's 26. She's got 3 kids. So she had them, it looks like, in her 20s. If I'm looking at their age, they're just starting, school. Statistically speaking, if my 57-year-old brain is correct, one of them, if not both of the kids, will also have kids when they are young. And the poverty cycle continues, and there's more banging on the drums on the streets as to why we can't get paid more out of our minimum wage job because we're trying to raise a family on it. When, like I said earlier, a minimum wage job, in my opinion, was never designed to raise a family.
Kyra and Shanita's older daughter, 9-year-old Kayla, get breakfast and lunch at school, which fills a big gap for Shanita.
They get 3 meals a day, and only how my children get 3 meals a day is because their school provides 2 meals out of those 3 meals.
Which again further explains the lack of nutrition. Now, as a teacher, I'm happy to say that at our school, at least in our district, you can order salads. Absolutely, the salads are actually really good. I have to be honest, because I eat them. Okay, you don't have to eat the so-called more junky food. But the bottom line is, kids being what they are, they're going to steer towards the more unhealthy stuff. And when a family has the resources to pay for good meals, even if the kids, steer towards, that unhealthy stuff, they can come home to a really nutritious meal, and hopefully it helps balances it out. And better yet, they could even take their meals from home and cut down on that starch, sugar, and all of that stuff. But in this case, they're basically going from cheap white bread, macaroni and cheese at home, and then they're going to school. Chances are we're looking at, near projects. I'm just looking at the background. This place don't look like it's been updated, since the 70s. Understandably, I believe they're in the projects, okay? They're going to school, and the same thing, the same sort of diet is happening. And depending upon their school district, they may not even have the choices of salads and stuff like we have. At our school, you can have salad, fruit, and all that, and they don't charge any more for it than anything else, which is really nice.
If I was to survive off of 3 meals a day for my children, we wouldn't make it. We would be homeless. We would be starving, one of the other.
While Shanita's at work, her husband Jude gets Kyra and Kayla to and from school and takes care of Sarah, their 8-month-old daughter.
Okay, so they have an 8-month-old daughter. I'm going to ask a tough question. And if you have followed this channel for the last 3 years, you'll know what I'm going to ask. Family, is this avoidable? Is this avoidable? Can we call the decisions that were made, can we just call it for what it is? Perhaps not the best decisions. Again, we're not blaming the children. This has nothing to do with the children directly. But the decisions that we make as adults have everything to do with kids. Now, I'm not a parent myself, okay? But I do know that if I'm already living in the projects, I'm already struggling with 2 kids, I already know I'm a fast food employee. I know I don't get benefits. I know I don't get sick time, vacation. She said by her own words at the opening, that's all luxury. When you know these decisions, yet you have an 8-month-old. You feeling me here? Okay? Not hating, just pointing out things when people sit and they go, I have no money. How come my job can't support me? It's not an employer's job to make sure you can live the life you want to live. That's your job. That's your job. It's not the employer's job to do your family planning for you, to see if you can afford to feed every member of your family. That's your job. So again, going back to the banging on drums and, picketing and saying $15 an hour. Again, we're talking for non-professional work. Professional work, I feel a bit differently about. But for non-professional work, work that does not require any special skill. Lots of trades require special skills. Okay, this is not a trade. This is not a professional job. This is ring up stuff at a cash register. 16-year-olds can do it. 15-year-olds can learn how to do it. Heck, I go to a Chinese food down the street and I think they got the 9-year-old kid doing it. I hope they're not breaking any labor laws on that, but he seems happy and well adjusted from what I can tell. So if you're going to bang on drums and picket, that's fine. But you can't be in the background doing things that harm you financially. The two don't work. You can't sit and say, I'm not making enough per hour. The economy is bad. It sucks. It's not meeting my needs. But then in the background also, be producing blessed child number 3, 8 months old. It's easy to say, well, this has to do with her husband's layoff. No, it doesn't, because these decisions were made before the husband was laid off. Right? It's easy to say, oh, well, this is all happening because her husband's been laid off. No, they were in this position long before the husband got laid off. The decisions to have children quite before you can afford them. I believe, and it's just my opinion, okay, that this is how I was taught. You have a duty as a parent to make sure that your cards are in order to the best of your ability before you start start that family stuff going on. Now, does that mean that, some people, of course, have families and everything was going fine and then, life did its thing? That's different. That to me, that's different. But it's deciding that by the time you're 26, you're going to have 3 kids. That's not being a victim of anything. That's just decisions that were made on a personal level. So, like I said, you can bang drums on the street, you can pick it all you want, but if I were to send someone underneath your roof and to look at your budget and to look at the decisions you've made, what would we see and what could have been done differently?
The family receives about $200 a month from the federally funded Women, Infants, and Children, or WIC program, for some of Sarah's basic necessities like baby food. Shanita told us years ago she used to qualify for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or food stamps, but at some point lost the benefit. The week we followed her, she decided to try and apply again.
So we keep going back to the things that people who are struggling financially do versus making new decisions, versus making different decisions. And it's easy for people to go, yeah, but you haven't walked in their shoes. I get it. All right. I respect it. But still, sometimes I think for all the time that is spent waiting to be on Section 8, for all the time that is spent standing in the food line, why not do something to change your life in a different direction? Okay. People will spend 8 hours waiting in a food line versus spending 8 hours going to the mall and passing out applications. I don't know. I know there are no easy answers to this. I know that. So I'm not claiming to say I've got a solution. But there's got to be something within us deeper. There's got to be something in us that wants more, that wants to do better than simply wake up and go, yeah, I'm going to go stand at the WIC line for another, 8-hour day or whatever. I mean, I'm glad the government programs are there. There's a reason they're there. We need them. We should keep them. Don't have a problem with that. But the thing I do have a problem with is, does there come a crossroad in one's life where you need to be asking yourself, are the decisions that are being made that are keeping you in that poverty lifestyle, that are not allowing you to be set financially free? Do you keep making decisions that are hurting you? As someone who was a shopping addict, me, all right, I was making lots of decisions that were hurting me, and it didn't have a thing to do with the economy. It had nothing to do with what the interest rates on housing and apartment rents were. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the decisions that I was making under my household. spending too much. I don't need 4 sweaters that are the same style. I only need 2. You get what I'm saying, though. So they can, I'm glad these social service programs are here, but they're not going to be what fixes your problem. They're not going to be what gets you out of working at Kentucky Fried Chicken because you have 3 children by the time you are 26 years old on no education.
One of her 2 days off, Shanita and her husband came here, a local New York City social service office, to apply for food stamps.
My day off is never an actual day off.
She waits 5 hours to apply because every dollar helps.
Imagine instead spending 5 hours learning a trade, an apprenticeship under someone. Now someone say, but what access is she going to have to that? I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I do know one thing. If you want to know it badly enough, you'll find the answer.
Anything they give, it definitely will stretch a long way if I have to use coupons and stretch and do what I have to do.
But anything you give to yourself will stretch even further. Instead of going to someone else and saying, give it to me, so I can stretch it, anything you can do for yourself, the better decisions you can make for yourself can help you get out of that economic cycle you're in. Not saying it's easy, not saying life is fair, not saying that everybody's going to have the same route to be able to financially, free themselves. But I do know, if I look at myself, when I used to have 25 cents inside my checking account in my 20s, when I did not have 69 cents one day to pay for a McDonald's cheeseburger, I literally didn't have 69 cents. Not in the ashtrays. Remember, I'm a child of the 80s, so they used to have ashtrays in cars. I never smoked and never will, okay? But not 69 cents. I couldn't come up with 69 cents between the ashtray, underneath the car seat, and on the couch. Underneath the couch cushions. I just didn't have 69 cents. So I get what it feels like to be poverty. And even though I never truly lived in poverty, I can tell you the first apartment I had out of college had bullet holes, okay, on one of the window porch lights. I got robbed because it was so easy just to jump through my bedroom window when I was work. Okay? Always remember, it's not a competition as to who had it worse. The competition is in you to get yourself out of it. That's the only person you're competing against, family. That's the only person. It's you.
52% of frontline fast food workers rely on some sort of public assistance, including food stamps, Medicaid, or the Earned Income Tax Credit. That's according to a new report from researchers at the UC Berkeley Labor Center. In total, they calculate these benefits cost taxpayers nearly $7 billion a year.
And believe it or not, I don't have a problem with benefits. I mean, heck, I got my $110,000 student loan given under public service after, 16 years of teaching. That was in 2022. I don't have a problem with benefits, but if you're going to do benefits, in my opinion, only really work if you learn while you are accepting those benefits, learn how to do things better, learn how to do things differently. I could have had my student loan forgiven for $110,000 because I held it for 16 years. And then I could have gotten out and bought too much car, too much condo, and my butt would still be broke. Yeah, I got my student loan forgiven, great, but I'm broke. But instead, I took it as an opportunity to do a lot of self-reflection, which of course is a big part of this channel, okay? To do a lot of self-reflection on what did I do wrong? So while I was working to get my, public service loan forgiveness taken care of, I did have to look at that.
It will be 30 to 45 days before Shanita knows if she qualifies for food stamps, but she already depends on other public aid to get by. While she and her husband are currently without health care coverage, her children are all on Medicaid. The family lives in a heavily subsidized 4-bedroom public housing apartment. Shanita has to pony up only $200 a month, but the week we followed her, she wasn't able to put any rent money aside.
Now wait a minute. I think I just saw an adult woman in the background that appears to be her mother. I don't want to mess with the camera, so I'm not going to rewind it. Mother seemed, from what I could tell, perfectly able to walk to the fridge and open it. So I'm trying to figure out why mother doesn't work. If that woman in the background, which I'm pretty sure it was, okay, if you're dying to see, you can always just rewind it. I don't like to rewind too much when I'm recording. But that woman looked totally able-bodied from what I could tell. And again, remember, family, this is one 26-year-old supporting a family of 7 on her income of less than $300 a week take-home pay.
Is it hard having 7 people under one roof?
It's very hard. It's on a day-to-day basis. You know, sometimes you stepped on each other's toes, and you know, but as a family, we learn to unite, and we know.
I don't see much uniting. I think I see her doing all the work.
We learn how to struggle together, because at the end of the day, this is about these 3 children. We don't let them experience poverty.
But they're in it. They are the spitting image of poverty, from where they live to the food that they eat. I won't say she's trying to deny her situation, but I can tell you that if you want to change your financial situation, you have to speak the truth about your actual situation. You have to be able to say, yes, I'm broke. Yes, I have an addiction to spending, whatever problem. Yes, I have no money because I don't know how to manage my finances. Yes, I'm broke because of the fact that I make poor decisions. I've made poor decisions. I continue to make poor decisions. You can't sit there and say things like, well, you know, we just don't let them experience poverty. No, all with due respect, they're experiencing it quite nicely.
We don't let them see, Mommy, can I go on my field trip? Mommy, can we celebrate Halloween?
You know, you said that you...
A lot of schools will subsidize trips that they go on for low-income children.
wanted to keep your children from witnessing poverty, but you live in a really tough neighborhood.
Yes, I do.
The Brooklyn neighborhood of Brownsville, where Shanita and her family live, has one of the highest violent crime rates in all of New York City.
And she's trying to say that they don't let their kids experience poverty?
We don't do anything in this neighborhood but buy what we need and come home. If we have to go somewhere very important, we make sure everything, absolute everything is in walking distance because we can't afford transportation.
Okay, so respectfully, as I was saying, you're living in poverty. Sometimes it's just better to be honest with your kids as they're growing up. Kids, yes, we live in poverty. And my goal is that you create a better life for yourself, that you don't experience the same hardships I did. And here's why I experienced those hardships. I love you dearly. I wouldn't trade you guys for anything. But I could have made better decisions. Until you get to the ability where you are able to where you are able to say the words as to why your financial situation is in the tank, meaning it's not doing well, until you are able to mouth those words, embrace it, accept it, you can't ever change it. And you certainly can't change it for your children. Trying to fool your kids and go, oh no, we don't live in poverty. Meanwhile, everywhere we go, mom's grabbing one with each hand because God knows what's going to happen when we're on the street. Kids are not dumb. There's enough social media out there. They already know they're in poverty. So sometimes it's just best to say, hey, you know what? You're right. We are in poverty, but I'm going to raise you. I'm going to get you the things that you need to the best of my ability. And when you grow up, here are the decisions that I made that I perhaps would tell you not to make. Statistically, however, 10 years later, looking they're 15 or so, okay, these kids would be maybe right around there. Statistically, one if not both will have a child well before 20. Again, I'm just speaking if I understand my statistics correctly. They're not going to wait till they're 28 years old, have got their trade and otherwise, skill set down, married and all of that.
Shanita did spend $20 on public transportation the week we were with her, but she's also forced to sometimes take taxis. For example, after applying for food stamps took so much time, Shanita and Jude had to hop in a cab in order to not be late picking up Kayla and Kyra at school. But the family does a lot of walking, including the almost mile and a half to and from school. Shanita says the daily round-trip bus fare would be too expensive.
And honestly, that mile and a half could be used as bonding time. And if they play their cards right, it'll become some of the most memorable times of their kids' life. Mom and dad walking us to school.
My kids is in one of the best schools in Brooklyn, and we have to sacrifice transportation, walking 45 minutes a day to make sure they are in the best schools, because we can't afford, for them to be, just getting by in school. I got by in school, and I'm in fast food. I'm in one of the quote unquote low wages jobs.
And what is she going to do? What has she done? Because again, this was 10 years ago. What has she done to make sure her kids are not in the same situation?
Spending $45.35 on toiletries for the house and an estimated $40 on baby supplies, including wipes and diapers, Shanita's bank account is down to $3.26 by the time the following Monday rolls around.
Her bank account had more in it than I did without kids. And I was at the height of my shopping addiction. It wasn't uncommon for my bank account to be down to 25 cents. And if you really want to get embarrassed, even when I was married, it wasn't uncommon for my bank account to get down to $3. You see, when we talk about being financially impoverished, it really, to some extent, okay, it doesn't matter what the situation is. You're broke, you're broke. But what does matter it's much easier to get out of one situation than another. It's much easier for me to get out of that situation. In my case, I don't have kids, or if I did have kids, maybe I wouldn't have 3 of them by the time I'm 26. All right. But poverty is poverty to some extent, folks. Okay. She's just as broke living in the projects as the guy making $200,000 a year on those Dave Ramsey commentaries that I do, which is, a big part of this channel. Is the guy that makes $200,000 a year and says he can't pay his bills. One just simply hides, is it in wolf's clothing, a bit more. That's the guy that makes $200. Whereas if you're living in the projects in Brooklyn, New York, it's just more out there. But they're both broke. I was broke. I had $3 in my checking account. A lot in my 40s. My 50s has been absolutely transformational. And it's really no secret on this channel that I credit, unfortunately, a lot of that really had to do with, getting divorced when he decided to leave. And I was able to take 110% complete charge of my financial life.
Is there something that people in the rest of the country are missing when they say, you know what, I would be happy to take an $8 an hour job. Times are tight. People would be willing to work for anything.
I would say to them, it's easy looking from outside in and saying, oh yeah, with that money I'll be able to, build mountains, but let me see you survive. I want to see anyone. I challenge you. Do it.
But my question then becomes, is she a victim? Is this a victim of economics? Is this a victim of, lack of job, opportunity? Or is it more of a or is her situation more the result of simply making poor choices? If we really, really get down to it, I believe most of our financial situation is our own doing. And you've heard me say that on this channel. I really, really do. I'm not saying other factors don't come into play. But we have to remember, when it comes to money and how we control it, are we going to act or react? Because if all we're going to do is react to everything that happens to us, then we're going to forever remain a victim. All I can do is wait till something bad happens and then I have to try and respond. Versus, what do they say? Take the bull by the horns. Control it. Control it. That's what you need to do. Her situation, her saying, well, let me see you do it. Well, the problem is I would have not had 3 kids by the time I was 26. And the 8-month-old, that was after the situation was already in play. It's like you already know what situation you're in. So when you tell someone, let me see you do it, to something that you can control. It's different when people get sick. It's different when someone, comes, and this is just my opinion, but it's different when someone gets genuinely sick and says, let me see you try to go to work when you're in chemotherapy. Okay, I respect that. But when it's something that you can control, I look at it way differently.
It's a challenge Shanita Simon overcomes week after week.
All right, folks. This was just my thoughts and opinion. I hope maybe you learned a thing or two. I do like to do documentaries quite on the regular. I will start doing them. I really like to. I enjoy, in-depth introspective thinking or something like that. Also coming to this channel, I'm going to be looking at some catfish stories. That's going to be new to this channel. And that is looking at stories where people are losing money to love scams. And with Valentine's Day and all that stuff coming up, all right, I thought, hey, you know what? I think we'll add love scam stories to this channel, because really when you get down to it, it's about how we're spending our money. What are we doing? What are the pitfalls? Because really, well, it is the Consumer Debt Chit-Chat channel. There are a lot of other things that can tank us, like, looking for love, and then someone writes you and says they're out on a oil rig somewhere and they can't get off, and there are pirates in the water, and you must, send them, $5,000 by wire to save them. Hey, it is what it is. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you guys soon. Good night, everyone.